right, folks, welcome back to GBN Live. I'm Todd Cartner, your host, and today we have with us Ryan Carr, who is up in the Greenville chapter. Actually in the Greenville area. He is a mortgage lender, and he's in our Powerdersville chapter, and we're going to get him on the air here in just a moment. We want to thank our sponsor, Grand Strand Law Group. You can reach them at 843-492-5422. They want to be your trusted choice. They're real estate attorneys. They do trust, wills, and all that kind of stuff, and they are located in Myrtle and North Myrtle Beach. So you can give them a call at 843-492-5422, or you can reach them online at grandstrandlawgroup.com. We want to get a bunch of questions today, and we also want to get your comments on how you like our new set design here. We've updated that once again last night. Guys, let us know how you feel about those. And then also, we want to give the permission to StreamYard so that we can get your comments on air at StreamYard.com/Facebook, or you can just simply click on the little approve button. I'll get it right in a minute. The little approve button whenever you log into Facebook. So, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you ask them so we can get them on air. Stay tuned. GBN Live. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to GBN Live. I'm Todd Carton, your host once again. And today we have Ryan Carr with us, who is a mortgage lender with Fairway Independent Mortgage up in Greenville, South Carolina. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I hear you're a little under the weather. You're supposed to be in the studio today, and it looks like, from what I can tell there, you're having a bunch of rain in the background. Is that right?
Yeah, it has been.
Or is it just foggy?
It's been coming down today.
Oh, wow. Well,
it started thunderstorming somewhere around 5 o'clock in the morning. We lost power twice last night. It was
oh my goodness
situation.
Yeah. Well, we wish you well and get better, and hopefully that weather will clean up as well. So we appreciate that. So before we get started here, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from originally, that kind of stuff, your family. Let's get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born in San Antonio, Texas, and then my family moved to the South Carolina area just before 2000. One of my first memories of being in Greenville was going to the fireworks for the millennium. So that was super cool. Graduated high school here in Greenville, South Carolina, where I live and work, and went to the University of Alabama, studied software, and went there on a scholarship for speech and debate. So little known fact about Alabama, we have more national championships in speech and debate than we do in football. So,
well, that's interesting. And yeah. I'm sorry you went to the University of Alabama.
I'm
a Georgia
dog. No, it was I was convinced I wasn't going to go. And then a friend of mine really wanted to and was like, hey, do you want to come check out the campus with me? And I was like, sure. That's Podunk, Alabama. It's going to be ugly. And the joke at Alabama is anybody who goes there for a tour ends up going because it's the most beautiful campus I've ever seen.
Yeah, it is pretty campus. I've been there myself. So you're right. I agree with that. So, let's get into the mortgage industry here. Talk to us a little bit about Fairway Mortgage, who they are, how long they've been in business. Let's get to know Fairway Independent Mortgage.
Yeah, so Fairway is one of the, I would say, kind of the medium-aged players in the mortgage business. But I think what really sets us apart is two things. One, our CEO, Jake, is really just in it for the right reasons. And he actually had an opportunity to sell during the pandemic. He chose not to. He felt like it wasn't in the best interest of all of us. If I was given the opportunity to sell for hundreds of millions of dollars, then I'm not sure that I could have made the same decision that he did, but he's a good guy. And the second thing is we're the largest privately held mortgage company in the country.
Oh, nice.
And what that means is that we get to make decisions that are good for our clients and for our branches that other mortgage companies don't. And, we have a great example. We actually have a program right now that we call the cash guarantee that will underwrite somebody beforehand before they put in an offer, and we'll eliminate the financing contingency on the offer. And so we just decided to do that because our clients, last year were not able to compete with cash offers. I mean, right. You're a realtor, you know how that goes. Yeah. And so basically Jake just looked at us and said, if we end up buying a bunch of houses because of this, then we're not going to have the program anymore. So go be responsible with it. And that's just not something that somebody who's accountable to shareholders can say. And there's a lot of examples of that, but I think that's, kind of the one that makes the most sense. You don't see Quicken offering a cash guarantee on any of their products.
Speaking of Quicken, I don't think that they're going to be in business much longer anyway. There's others that have already gone out of business, and that model just is not working well. And I've had so many clients over and heard of so many stories. They get to a couple days before closing, and then boom, they lose it. So
the other thing that I think makes us really special is we operate everything on the branch level, and you as a realtor know that accountability is incredibly important in the mortgage world. And that's a big reason why realtors don't like using big banks or people who, are in other states. Because if I screw up, then they come beat my door down and I never get to deal with them again.
And that's what I like about a local realtor or local lender. I can actually walk into their office if I need to. I see them at other networking events. I see them in GBN. It's that relationship. And, it also, the thing I like about it is if I have an issue, I can call you up and say, hey, Ryan, this is the issue going on. How can we fix it?
Right.
You can't do that with those online lenders is what I call them.
Well, and I help with a lot of deals that aren't even mine. I ultimately want to build the relationship with you as the realtor, but also with a bunch of clients. And
right.
I've had a couple of times where I've had to go in and help other lenders fix their deals just so that the client could get in their house. Yeah. And that builds good faith then with that realtor that they'll want to use me in the future.
Sure. Well, let's get into the lending. So one of the first things that any good real estate agent will do is recommend talking to a lender first. That's the first step in the buying process. Talk to us a little bit about that and why that is an important thing to do.
So I think there's two things to talk about here. One, you don't go to Walmart without your wallet, right? You don't go shopping without knowing how much money you're able to have and able to spend. And when you're looking to buy a house, one of the worst things that people can do is go in and put an offer on something that they can't afford. And so talking to a lender first gives them a budget, because every lender is different, sure, but we play by the same rule book. And what you're really looking for is a lender who is going to be thorough up front and who's going to ask you for more documents than the other lender. That, is going to ask you more questions and is going to make sure that you understand what are all the fees that are associated with it. Because, one of the things that online, real estate websites don't do is tell you a realistic number for what the mortgage payment on this house is going to be. They're assuming you're putting 25% down. They're assuming you're not escrowing your taxes and insurance. And so I see a lot of times people going in and saying, hey, I want to spend $1,000 a month and I want a $200,000 house. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to happen today. So here's why, or here's how we can get you there so that you can buy the house that you want, even though you're not there right now. And so it gives you a realistic expectation for what you can afford and how much you can pay each month for it. And then two, it makes sure that the real estate agent on both sides isn't wasting their time. Because the worst thing that a rookie agent or any real estate agent really can do is put somebody who wants to buy a house and is willing but unable in their car and showing them a house. And so A, it gives that person their budget, but B, it gives the real estate agent the assurance that they're able to actually go buy a house so that they can move forward.
And one of the things that I find true with these online lenders is almost like just a transaction. It's cut and dry. It's black and white. There's no, hey, I got this little issue. How can we fix it? And how quickly can we fix it so we can move forward? And the other ones, it's just approve or deny, move on. And
well,
you don't have
and one thing I find with a lot of those, online mortgage companies is they're not asking enough up front. They may ask you, how much do you make per year? And you may say, oh, I make $60,000 a year. But they're not asking, are you self-employed? Oh, you are? Oh, can I see your tax returns? Oh, well, because according to Uncle Sam, you wrote off $40,000 last year and you may have made 60, right. But according to me, you only made 20. So they're going to go get an approval letter from somebody who just asks them how much money they make. But that's not real. And when they put that contract down and they get that inspection and they order that appraisal, they'll find out they can't buy the house, and then they just lost $2,000.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, let's talk about the pre-approval process. You know, there's still I spoke to a guy last night that just got over COVID, and so it's still going on a little bit. But have you seen any changes in the mortgage lending process because of COVID? I know for a while there they were being really strict on some of the requirements, but they've eased up a little bit. Have you seen any changes that you think are going to be long term from it?
Yes and no. I think that our process of investigating a person's income, such as, um, looking through their employer, contacting their employer, getting what we call a verification of employment, that process was streamlined a lot during COVID, and that's a good thing. But as far as some of the stipulations on, what we accept as a gap in employment that we were able to put a break on, those are starting to go away. And so what I mean by a gap in employment is with COVID, if you were furloughed, and then got your job back right away, we could kind of count that time that you were furloughed as it didn't exist, and we could just go back to business as usual. And that's kind of going away now. We have to explain, why you have a gap in employment, and COVID furloughs just aren't a thing anymore. They're not really happening, at least not in South Carolina. I know there's other states that are going back to some lockdown procedures, but here in the Southeast, we're not. And our underwriters know that. And, that is a good and a bad thing. It's good that we expect people to be able to pay these mortgages back. The reason we make some differences with furloughs is, to make sure people get into a house and make sure that, they can move forward with their life, and that, things out of their control were not detrimental to them. But we also have the responsibility and the fiduciary responsibility to make sure that you're not going to foreclose on your property.
Sure.
And, that's the reason those rules are in place in the first. And
people don't understand that too, because that really hurts the market. Or a neighborhood. If you have a new neighborhood that turns around and has 5 or 6 foreclosures in a short period of time, that's going to affect the market value. It's going to affect the market as a whole. That buyers are going to have a harder time getting into that community because of all the foreclosures.
And you'll see a drop in house value too, and that's detrimental to everybody who lives there already. So it's a bad thing. I know that sounds, like, duh, Ryan, it's bad when people foreclose, but it's deeper and worse than people think it is. And
it is.
That's understanding that's why we have these rules in place, is that they prevent or reduce the risk of foreclosure is an important step in understanding why we make the decisions that we do.
True. So have you seen any changes in Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, any of those type programs that are typically FHA programs that a lot of people fall under?
I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit there. Will you repeat the question?
I'm sorry. So have you seen any changes in the Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae programs that are going to be long-term or even short-term? I know that a lot of people get those type of programs under FHA or whatnot. So are you seeing any changes there that people should be aware of?
Yeah, so a couple of the changes that I personally have noticed since the beginning of COVID is the debt-to-income requirement has been stretched. And what I mean by that is when a person buys a house, we essentially calculate backwards to see how much they can afford on their mortgage. So we see how much money they make. We say that you're only allowed to spend a certain amount of that before with taxes, with mortgage, with credit cards, car payments, all that kind of stuff. And before COVID, it was pretty hard that you could not get anything with a 43% or higher debt to income ratio.
Right.
And so one of the things that what we call DU and LP, which are the automated underwriting systems that approve a file and just kind of give it that first layer of approval, is it's doing a much better job now of assessing the person overall and allowing us to go to higher debt to income ratios if there are certain factors present, such as, they make more money, or that it's not all their house. Maybe they've got a business loan. Maybe they've got credit cards that they're paying off. Maybe they've got student loans. And so the rules for debt to income in general have kind of changed and become a little more finessed, which is good because it's not trying to fit every single person into one box. But I think the biggest prolific change that I don't foresee going away anytime soon is how we handle student debt. And essentially, if it's on deferment, sorry, I couldn't think of the word.
That's all right.
It used to be that we had to count 1% of the balance against you. Now it's only 0.5% for basically every loan program. And I think that's better for most people. And,
Sure.
So I do think I like the way that we're doing that baseline approval much better now after COVID. Those are some good changes.
I was in a meeting this past week, and one of the things that they were talking about is that the huge change that people didn't even see during COVID is people enrolled in online classes like crazy during that time, which is good. We didn't even really see that. But one of the guys I was talking to works with a technical college, and he was saying that it was crazy at how many of their programs went online during that time, which I'm glad that people took advantage of it and just sit at home and do nothing.
I think people in general want to improve and they want to be better. And
I agree.
They want to, most people are good. And, if they're sitting at home and they were furloughed, they were trying to find something to do. And
you get bored really quick, or I do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So let's talk about some down payment assistance programs. I know that there's always that are out there. Have you seen any new ones that have come into play, or have they changed any of the requirements for those?
No, I don't necessarily think that there's been a lot of new programs, but I think our understanding in the market of how we use the existing programs has become better. But also some of the negative stigmas around some of the other programs that existed have kind of gone away. And so let's talk first-time home buyer. It's one of the biggest lies that was ever told to my generation is that you need 20% down to buy a house, and that's just not true.
Right.
In fact, very few people that I'm working with now are putting 20% down. And we can talk about the market. I know that's probably something you want to talk about at some point. But what has happened with the market and first-time home buyers and people who've owned homes before, what's happening with them. But as far as first-time home buyers and first-time home buyer programs go, there's kind of two camps that I would break those into. One is like federally sponsored government programs. And then two are going to be more of your local or state programs for first-time home buyers. And so as far as the big federal programs go, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have first-time home buyer programs that let you put 3% down. They're much harder loans to get as far as, what your credit score is, what your debt to income ratio is. You have to take a class. It's not expensive. I think it's like $50 to take the class to qualify for the program. But 3% down on a conventional loan is a very, very strong offer for a first-time home buyer. And most first-time home buyers, use things like FHA or USDA or other government programs. And as a listing agent, I know that you tend to prefer the conventional or the cash offers just because they're typically stronger buyers.
Right.
And, I see a lot of people who are graduating college, who just got a job, who, their parents are able to help them with, 3% down, able to buy houses because of those programs. And an important thing with those programs too, is they also supplement some of the mortgage insurance or an additional insurance you have to pay if you don't put 20% down. Right. And so it's a better loan than a regular conventional loan. Now the government programs, USDA and FHA allows for 3.5% down basically all the time. There's some exceptions to that, but it's a good general rule. USDA, though, I've found myself really liking those loans lately, assuming that I can get some offers accepted. But I think USDA has become more prevalent after COVID because the increase in remote work. And what USDA loans do that's unique is you can't buy in a metropolitan area. So you can't buy in a big city. You can't buy in like a big developed area. They're kind of encouraging you to buy, out in the suburbs or out in the country. And more people are willing to move out there if they know that their job is remote and that they can work from there.
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
USDA loans let you put 0% down in most circumstances. I don't want to say in all, there are some exceptions, but in most circumstances, they let you put 0% down. And they're a great loan if you can qualify for it.
And you know, speaking of those down payments, SC Housing has some great programs that can help as well.
And that's what I was going to get to next. And one of the things that I like to tell my clients is, you know, I'm not a broker. I'm what's called a correspondent, but I'm essentially a broker in the sense of I have access to all these different loan programs that we can utilize to make sure that it's the best program for you. And there are circumstances in which those SC housing programs are great for people, and there are circumstances where they're not good for people.
Right.
And what Todd is talking about is there are these programs that allow you to put, basically the government will give you X% or X thousand of dollars to put down on your house. So one of the Palmetto programs, for instance, will give you $8,000 towards your down payment and your closing costs. However, the disadvantage to that is you can't sell that house and you can't refinance that within periods of time where you're on the hook for that $8,000.
Right.
And so if you know for a fact, like, hey, I'm moving here and rates look great right now. You know, I did a lot of Palmetto program over the last 2 years when rates were in the 3.5%, because you're never going to refinance that. Like you're just not, you know, but now rates are really high and, you know, they're in the mid sixes now. And what I mean by mid sixes is, you know, that's an ideal candidate is in the mid sixes. So you can buy it down, you can get lower than that, but most people are, you know, mid sixes to 7 is where most people fall right now. And you want to refinance that. And so you don't want to get yourself stuck in a situation where you're going to owe a lot of money in the future if that's already your plan. And so that's part of the value add of having a local guy that cares and wants to make sure that you're happy in the long term. Now we're going to talk about your different options, and it may be worth maybe buying a USDA, or it may be worth trying to scrounge up 3%, because there are also fees associated with those. And so there's a lot of math that goes into it, and ultimately what's right for one person is not right for another. And it's just trying to figure out that puzzle.
And that's exactly why, as a realtor, we always recommend that you speak to a lender first, because it's not a one-size-fits-all program.
No.
So, well, guys, stick with us, and when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about the market with Brian, and we're going to see maybe some things that he has some suggestions for. So, stick us. GBN Live will return in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Jess the Sand. I've been a canine liaison at Grand Strand Law Group for, 30 years? What's that? You don't believe me? I meant 30 dog years, of course. First rule of lawyering, read the fine print. Anywho, my humans at Grand Strand Law Group have a combined 20 years experience. I know, not as much as me, but that's in people years. So yeah, still pretty impressive. Real estate, estate planning, or probate, you need GSLG.
Grand Strand Law Group. Trust us, we have a dog.
Great Business Networking grew out of the idea that by creating lasting friendships within the community, we can make the community even better.
I was looking to network with professionals and to be able to refer my clients to somebody that I trust.
Well, it's really important to trust the members of the group, because we really generate quality referrals, and to know somebody, be friends with them, and get that qualified referral is the key to success.
It is networking, but it doesn't feel like networking, and that is important to me. I come to the meetings, I have fun, I make great connections, and I help grow my business.
GBN, these are some of the best professionals in the market, and having that resource available to me, that's priceless.
Well, GBN is a network of business professionals that build long-lasting friendships that will not only grow my business, will grow yours as well. That's what referral marketing is all about.
GBN really is the most important marketing for your business. Check us out today. All right, folks, welcome back to GBN Live. I'm Todd Cartner, your host, and today we have with us Ryan Carr who is a mortgage lender with Fairway Independent Mortgage up in Greenville. So remember, we want to thank our sponsor, Grand Strand Law Group, who wants to be your trusted choice. With offices in Myrtle Beach and North Myrtle Beach, they can be reached at 843-492-5422 or online at grandstrandlawgroup.com. Make sure you ask your questions in your favorite social media channel. We'll try to get those on air for you. So, Ryan, let's see. Before the break, we talked about getting pre-approved and stuff. Let's get into this a little bit more about what is needed, and maybe, and I'm going to get into this a little bit more too later, but some things that you can do to improve your credit or even get credit in a short period of time.
Sure. So I really like to think that pre-approval is 3 legs. You've got credit, assets, and income. And I need to see something to justify all 3 of those things before I'll send a pre-approval letter. And it's important to know that not every lender is going to do that. Some of them are going to trust you and just go, hey, what do you have in your bank account? Oh, you've got 20 grand? Great. The reason that I want to see these things is because, one, credit, have to pull credit, have to take a look at it, have to make sure that, you qualify there. Credit, though, is more of like a red light, green light. Do you qualify or do you not? And can we get you the loan that we need to, or can we not? And so I pull your credit, take a look. Okay, we're all good there. Assets, a big reason I need to see those is I need to make sure that they're vested or seasoned, because I need to be able to justify where you get your money. And it's nothing personal. Mortgages used to be used to launder money. And so it's just that I need to make sure that, you're getting your money from a legitimate source and that it's been tracked. And so that's why I need to see asset statements. I need to make sure that they're there. I need to make sure that they're not what we call pillow money or mattress money, where you have a bunch of cash. You laugh because you've seen it before.
No, I know. I've seen it, and I saw a meme the other day that had a mattress, and the back end of it was lifted up, and there was millions of dollars under there, and it says, "Where's your down payment come from?" And that was the meme.
Great, can't use it. Or I have to be creative, right? There are so underwriters are humans too. They're essentially what the flip side of the business. I represent the buyer, and the underwriter represents the bank. And because of legal reasons, the buyer can't talk to the underwriter. That's why my job exists. And sometimes they can be reasoned with, and if we can justify that, hey, this buyer is dumb and they didn't know that they couldn't use that money, but we can still legitimately source where they got the money from, then sometimes we can use it. But it's a lot of hoops to jump through. And if we can avoid that, if you're looking to buy a house, go put your money in the bank right now. Do it.
Now, could we go and deposit that cash for the mattress in mom and dad's account and then have mom and dad give you a
that is one of the ways around it. And it depends on the loan program. FHA will ask for mom and dad's bank statement.
Gotcha.
And so you just got to make sure that you're doing it with a program that doesn't ask questions where mom and dad got the money from.
There you go. Or maybe there's enough under the mattress that you can just pay cash. Who knows? So, Ryan, how do you feel that the market's going right now, and what do you see it changing for you in the coming year when it comes to mortgage lending?
So right now we're kind of in a weird space because most of what I'm working with right now is first-time home buyers, and they're being pushed out of the rental market.
They are.
Get this, landlords are smart. They track data, and they will track what interest rates look like, and they'll raise their rent accordingly. And because if it costs you $2,000 to get a mortgage, they're going to charge you $1,800. And the reason they do that is so that they can pay off their own mortgages and, their businesses. And, every business tracks data to know what to charge.
They should, yes.
But everybody who bought a house in the last 3 years is just hanging out because, for instance, like I have a 2.5% interest rate on my house. Why would I sell my house?
Exactly.
And so what we're seeing is that all those people are just hanging out. They're existing. They're happy with where they're at. Everybody upgraded during COVID that could. And, one of the things that you hear is, oh, this is a bubble. Oh, it's going to pop. It's not. A lot of people are drawing comparisons to 2008. And the problem with 2008 is a very different problem than what we have now. In 2008, you saw a dramatic rise in surplus in inventory. So there was a huge surplus in inventory. And lenders were just kind of shaking hands and saying, you got it. Like, I'm going to give you all that money. You're, making $30,000 a year as, a shift manager at Burger King. Have a $400,000 loan. And that was not sustainable. And so you saw two things. One, all these prices kept going up and up and up, but there was way more inventory than people could buy. And so the logic then became, why would I spend $400,000 for that house when I could buy that one for $300,000? And so it became a buyer's market. There was, it was tough to sell your house. And so you had to get aggressive and you had to sell it for less than you thought. And then two, a lot of unsustainable, what we call subprime mortgages were given out, and those people foreclosed. No, not all of them. Some people were responsible and some people only got a loan that they could afford, but not everybody. And all it takes is a couple of foreclosures and, like you said, a market or a bank or whatever started reassessing.
Right.
And so right now, we're not seeing those people move. Values in homes are not going down because those people who bought those houses are not selling.
Exactly.
And, if you bought your house for $250,000 and you got a 2.5% interest rate on it, and somebody comes along and says, I want to buy your house, you're going to go, nope, you can give me like $400,000 for it, maybe, because where are you going to go, right? Until rates go back down a little bit, and those people have no interest in moving. And not only that, but we still have inventory problems. The reason we saw dramatic increases in prices over the last couple of years was because building was not anywhere to be seen. COVID shut down builders. And then we had certain markets, like the Greenville market exploded because with the increase in remote work, people were moving out of big cities. Cities like New York and Los Angeles and Austin, these big, metropolitan areas were losing people, where these kind of mid-sized cities gaining people like crazy.
Yeah. And that same thing happened down in Myrtle Beach where we are. It's and I don't know how familiar you are with the county that we're in, but one of the furthest away cities or towns from the ocean is Aner or Galamit's Ferry.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived here for 33 years, and I never in my life thought I would see a subdivision going out there, and they're popping up everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not your $150,000 homes that you would think they would be in that area. They're 250, some 300. I've even seen some that are in 400,000. And I'm like, that's just crazy. And it's probably a good 40, 45 minutes from the beach from that area.
Mm-hmm.
But we're seeing it. And like you said, so many people are working from home now, and it does make a difference. One of the things we did is it kind of slowed down a little bit, but we were seeing a huge uptick in condo sales.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the Greenville market's doing there as far as condos and things like that, but are you seeing that as well? And is there a difference from a mortgage lender's perspective in getting a single family home loan versus a condo loan?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer that in two ways. One, we are seeing an increase in condos, but one thing that I find condos wise is it's much more prolific for people to buy a condo as a second home.
Right.
And you're going to see that a lot more in areas around the beach. And so, yes, we do have some condos that are going up. Downtown Greenville is getting really big because Forbes needs to stop telling people it's one of the best places to live. Seriously, stop.
It hurts us too.
But so we have a bunch of people moving to downtown Greenville. So we have a bunch of apartments and condos and stuff being built here. But two, understand that, and this is to answer is it more difficult to get a single family home versus condo? Understand that getting a mortgage is all about weighing risks versus reward from the bank's perspective, right? And a single family home is purchased with land, it's purchased with insurance. If something happens to that home, it gets rebuilt. Condos, you own zero land. You own kind of this metaphorical block in the air. And so it's just much more risky because what if Joe Schmo 3 doors down leaves his stove on and burns the whole condo complex to the ground?
Right.
So yes, you definitely can get a mortgage for it. And I see you.
I see Sam's watching. I see her. She says that Greenville's the best place to live. Well, you haven't lived in Myrtle Beach, Sam. I was picking. Thanks for watching.
What if
Greenville is lovely.
But so yes, you can, but there's a lot more stipulations to it. The amount that you have to put down is higher. The rate that you're going to pay is higher. The insurance you're going to pay is higher because there's more risk on foreclosures. There's a higher rate of foreclosures on condos, and there's a higher risk of if something happens to the structure, i.e. natural disaster or fire or something like that, that it won't be rebuilt to the proper standard.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, and I'm sure you're familiar with Ryan, but they have built some beautiful condos around the Greenville area, and they're starting to build some here, and they're actually even tucked away a little bit. They're not even out on the main highways, but they're $350,000 condos. But these places, well, townhomes, I guess I should call them, and they're absolutely gorgeous.
So townhomes are different than condos. I'm glad you brought that up because guess what a townhome does have? It has land.
Land. Yep.
You own the land. So if your whole townhome complex burns to the ground, the whole unit of 4 or whatever, you own that little strip of land and you can build a new townhome on it. And so you can get your money back. Even if everybody else is uninsured, you can still rebuild.
Right.
And that's an important distinction. We don't treat townhomes as condos. We treat them as single family homes.
Yeah. Great. Well, Ryan, before we go, let's talk about credit repair right quick because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people face. A lot of people are facing it with the recent COVID pandemic that we had. But what are some ways that they can either correct their credit quickly or establish credit quickly? And I know you have a simulator that almost all mortgage lenders use.
So not every mortgage lender will use it. The thing that you realize, and this is just with experience, if somebody comes to you and it has bad credit, there's about a 10% chance that they're going to do what you ask them to do to build their credit back up. And so most mortgage lenders, if they pull your credit and you're below a 580, they're not going to want to talk to you anymore. And I'm not that. I do enjoy talking with people who have lower than 580 credit. And it's real. It's 1 in 10 will work hard to get their credit where it needs to be. But if you're willing to put in that time, those are the people who will cheerlead for you on top of the mountain.
100%.
You're putting a lot of time and energy. In fact, I have a client right now who is the person I have had pre-approved the longest amount of time. She's been pre-approved for 1.5 years and still hasn't found a house yet.
Wow.
But a big part of that was she wasn't able to qualify for the loan that she wanted. So I've been coaching her on how to, pay off this debt and call this person and get this deleted. And so as far as just generic tips for getting credit, the first thing you need to do is get your head out of your sand. Go download Credit Karma, download the Experian app, download something that lets you look at your credit. It's not going to be the same number that I see. Everybody has different credit scores for different types of industries. So if a mortgage company pulls your credit, it's going to be different than if an insurance company pulls your credit and if a car company pulls your credit. If you've had a repossession on your history, that's bad and it hurts your credit, but it doesn't exclude you from buying a house. But it will probably exclude you from getting a car loan. And so your car credit score will be lower than your mortgage credit score with a repossession. Same thing with a foreclosure. You get a foreclosure, you're not getting another mortgage for a long time, but you might be able to buy a car. So it's important to know that like Credit Karma and Experian, they'll tell you a score, but it might not be the score that I see. And so as far as
and sometimes, I'm sorry to interrupt, sometimes that could be 40 points off or more.
Oh, absolutely.
Between Credit Karma and what you would pull.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've seen, I think 40 or 50 is probably the most that I've seen, but very frequently it's 20 points off.
Right.
And so, one of the things that people really need to know is how to handle credit, because they think, if you go get a credit card and then you throw it in your safe, that helps build your credit. And it really doesn't. An ideal credit profile, this is how you get to like the 800s. Is you have a mortgage, you have 2 credit cards. One of those credit cards has $0 on it, and it's just sitting there. The other one you have to use. And what I mean by you have to use is you have to leave some amount of money on it each statement, because credit score is not just how responsible are you with your credit? I've seen tons of people who've had no negative credit whatsoever, and they're in the mid 600s. Credit score is how eligible you are to receive new credit. And I know that sounds, the same, but it's not. Because if a company gives you credit, but they don't make money on you and they actually lose money on you, then they're not going to give you more credit.
Sure.
And so you need to pay some amount of interest, even if it's like 10 cents of interest on at least one of your cards, because when it gets reported to the credit bureau, it doesn't say, "Ooh, I made $10,000 on this person." It just says, "I have a debt with this person and they're paying me interest." And so the credit bureaus are going to go, not only is that person responsible, but they're also using their credit, which means they're eligible for more.
Right. Well, Ryan, thanks so much. You had a lot of great information today. If you guys want to get in touch with him, you can reach him at 864-518-6035. That's 864-518-6035, or you can visit him at ryancarr.com, and that'll take you to his website where you can apply and find all kinds of information about mortgage lending. Ryan, before we go, I want one more question for you, and I want to talk to you about what referral networking means to you, and specifically why you chose GBN, because you were one of the first that reached out to us up in the Greenville market, and we greatly appreciate that. But we want to hear what you have to say about it.
So I think referral networking is really important for me in my business in two ways. One, when I talk to a person, they kind of need to trust me. And the reason for that is because they're giving me very sensitive information. They're giving me tax returns. They're giving me their Social Security. I'm pulling their credit. And sometimes it's not enough to just know that I'm federally licensed, right?
Sure.
I'm federally licensed through South Carolina, through the United States federal government. If I go and misuse that information, it's very bad for me. So I'm not allowed.
Right. Right. Same with us, the realtor. Yeah.
Right. But having somebody come to you and say, "Hey, I know Ryan, he's going to do a great job. Trust him," is excellent, because then I don't get any pushback. I don't get any, "Oh, well, why do you need this?" "Oh, why do you need to see that?" "Oh, I talked to another lender and he doesn't need my tax returns yet. He just said he could give me an approval."
Right.
Okay, well, I need them. So let's chop, let's go. And I'll explain to them, why I need them. I want to make sure that they're not getting in above their head and all that kind of stuff. So having a referral from somebody who just says, "Ryan does a great job, trust him," is so powerful, because it just lets me get my job done more effectively. And I'm going to treat them well, and then they're going to refer people to me in the future, and how that person wants to be treated is also, they feel a lot more confident in being able to ask the questions that they want to know, or just being able to say, "Hey, I trust you, go get it done."
Right.
But two, real estate agents and mortgage lenders are very similar in this way, that when we interact with somebody and we have a client, we get very intimate with that client. And, we learn a lot about them. We talk to them a lot. And especially when they're moving to a new area, they may come to you or me and ask, "Hey, I need a plumber. Hey, I need a roofer. Hey, I need a good restaurant. I need an attorney," whatever.
We become the go-to source for that.
Right. And you become a go-to source for that. And it's important that you don't just say, "Hey, go find one on Google," because if you keep sending them to Google, they're going to stop coming back to you. Yep. And you just want more people in your spheres of influence. Industries like ours benefit greatly from, being friends with people on Facebook and being able to interact with them positively, because then, when their friends need a mortgage lender, they're going to refer you. And so that's a very important thing. And so I want to stay that center of focus. And if they come to me needing something, "Hey, I need a good pest control guy," having somebody in a referral networking that you trust, because that's an important thing about GBN. It's not just we're going out and getting the first person that, fills that empty seat. We're interviewing them. We're making sure that they fit in with the group. We're making sure that they provide good quality referrals, but also, and this is incredibly important, that when we send them somebody, they take care of them. And that is a huge benefit to having GBN or any kind of networking group that you can trust with people, is that when I send someone to Steve Garrison, who's my life insurance and financial advisor guy, that he's going to treat them well. Because if he treats them poorly, then I just lost that referral for life.
Right. But he's also lost And that's what is nice about GBN holding each other accountable. He's also lost your business.
Yeah, right.
So it holds us each accountable.
And accountability is good in business.
It is 100%. So, well, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us. We greatly appreciate some awesome information. Guys, we appreciate you joining us. And remember, if it's Wednesday, it's GBN Live. We'll see you guys next time.